Hello and welcome to this lesson entitled Using QuickCreate for Common Purchase Related Transactions. This lesson is part of the Expense and Purchases module within the topic called Managing Transactions. After completing this lesson, you will be able to identify characteristics of common purchase related transactions using QuickCreate. The lesson will conclude with a few exercises that will help you succeed with the certification test. Before we get started, may I please remind you that you will gain much more benefit from this lesson if you use the handbook that accompanies it. The handbook can be downloaded from the homepage of the QuickBooks online certification program. When you have the handbook open to this lesson, click the next button to start the lesson. This is our homepage. Let's go to QuickCreate. You can see on the top of home screen there is a button having plus sign that is called a QuickCreate. When we click on that, multiple options appear for recording transactions. Now in this lesson, I will discuss and demonstrate the following: navigating to QuickCreate, ways that transactions can be created, types of payments that can be created, downloaded transactions, and how to match transactions. Under suppliers, we have various options, let's say expense, check, bill, pay bills, purchase order, supplier credit. Wherein expense is normally used to pay expenses that we make or that we pay in cash. Check option is normally used when we issue checks to our suppliers. Bill is created for expenses that we want to track and to pay later on. Once we create a bill, then we can pay bills for later on. Purchase order is used to issue purchase orders to the suppliers. Supplier credit is used to give a credit to a particular supplier for rate differences and quantity differences. Now let's go to expense option first. When we click on that, the form will appear wherein we can select a pay at our discretion. We can select a particular cash count. We can select payment date and can enter the payment method. Cash, check, credit card, check and credit card option also appears over here. We can put a separate reference number. We can put down a specific expense, that is chart account, let's say it is housekeeping charge. We can write down a description for the month of, let's say, August, and we can put down a specific amount. We can select the specific text. Under that you can see item details. This is specifically for the kind of transactions where we deal in purchase and sales. That is, specifically we purchase products or we purchase services, and the same we are selling it to customers. Now get back to our transaction, and let's say we get a tax of 12.36% that we can reclaim it. So underneath it will come up with the tax breakup. There is a column memo on the left hand side wherein you can write down for the month of August 2014. This memo description will appear on the statements that we create for customers and suppliers. Now we can save it. Pop-up will reflect expense saved. Now let's go back to the QuickCreate again. The second option we have check. In check, we have almost the same column like expense, wherein we can put down necessary details like a pay, from which bank it's been paid, payment date. We can mention the specific check number. We can put down the specific expense account detail, put down the description, then amount, give a tax if it is associated with that transaction. Then we can click on save and go ahead. At the moment we are not entering it. Now let's go to bill. Let's click on that. This option is specifically for the expenses that we want to track by a supplier and that we want to pay later on and not now. So we can create a bill for a particular expense supplier wise. For example, let's create a supplier as there is no supplier in this file. So when you click on that, the option will appear add new. We can always click at, let's say Vodafone is our supplier. We can quickly save on that. Let's say bill date is today. Let's say bill number is 123-8-1415. It is for telephone expenses. So let us select telephone expense, description, telephone bill for the month of August 2014. Let's select amount. Let's say 3,500 is the bill. Let's click on save and close. If you want to save and add a new bill for expenses, we can click on save and new. At the moment we are saving it and closing down. So bill is saved with a reference number. Now under that we have option pay bills. In this case, if we want to pay the bills that we create for a specific suppliers, we can do that. In this window you can see from which bank or cash we want to pay. That will appear over here. Let's say we are paying through cash. We have created a bill for Vodafone supplier. So we can select the amount is 3,500. We can select the payment date. Let's give it today. We can state a reference number and simply click on pay bills. When we have paid it, the message will appear one bill is paid. We can go to return to pay bills for making another bill payments. Now let's go to QuickCreate again. Under that pay bills we have purchase order option. When we click on that, the purchase order form will appear onto the screen, wherein we can choose the supplier. Let's say it's a Vodafone. We can make a specific date for purchase order. We can always put in expense account details. We can put in the description. Let's for example state ABCD. We can put in, let's say we are giving a purchase order for 5,000 rupees. It is not having a tax. So in that, let's say take up a tax of 12.36% so that we don't have error while saving the transaction. We can make a message to supplier that valid if delivered or fulfilled in 10 days. We can save and send it as an email from here. We can save and close it, and we can save and add new for creating a new purchase order. Let's click on save and send. Here it will always ask for an email, so we'll have to enter an email address, otherwise it will always show an error while saving a transaction. So let's click on save and send after entering an email address. So after entering that, this email format will appear, wherein subject body will appear. You can always modify and edit while going through, and the sample format for purchase order that we have created will appear over here. So we can send and close it once we go through the details, and the system will show up a pop-up message as to that email is sent to a specific email address that we have supplied while entering the purchase order. So email is sent to the recipient. Now again let's go to QuickCreate. After a purchase order is made, if we want to convert it that to a bill, we can always do that. We need to go to specific suppliers. In our case, it will be Vodafone. So let's go to suppliers, wherein we have Vodafone. Let us click on Vodafone. Here we will have an option of each purchase order that we have created. We have created a purchase order for 5,000 plus tax. So if we want to copy that to a bill, so we can click on copy to bill under the action column. Simply all the details which are there into the purchase order will automatically be populated onto the bill, and it will save as a bill, and that will be posted to a particular chart of accounts. Now let's go to QuickCreate again. Under purchase order we have a supplier credit. In supplier credit, we can give a credit to a supplier for a particular situation, may it be a weight difference or quantity difference. In our case, let's say telephone expense, and we have got a credit of 1,000 rupees from a Vodafone. So we click on a particular chart of accounts, we'll apply a specific amount. If there is a tax associated with it, we'll apply a specific tax rate that will automatically be populated on the text column. We'll click on save and close, and supplier credit will be saved on the Vodafone, and you can always see the balance will get deducted from the outstanding. So this is a summary of transactions that we can do with respect to suppliers from a QuickCreate. Now we can always see a list of downloaded transactions from a bank which we are making payments to all the suppliers. For that, we need to go to transactions from the menu available on the left hand side. So let's click on that. Under that we have first option, that is banking. Under banking, we will have a list of all accounts which are connected with online banking. Now in that, for all the transactions that QuickBooks downloaded automatically from our bank account, given that we have supplied online banking ID and a password. So the list of all downloaded transactions will appear under the window New Transactions, when all the transactions which are withdrawal or deposit will appear under the same list. You can see here on the screen the list as it's shown on your bank statement will appear. For example, to post a particular transaction, let's take up one example. For example, click on second transaction. Under the description column, here it shows to transfer IMD Vodafone payments. So this is the same transaction, or rather description, that appears on your bank statement. So virtually this is a telephone expense payment. So we can click on expense. Under that we have two options. We can add it manually or we can find the match. Let's first learn how to add it. Under expense, we have three options: expense, check or transfer. For cash to bank or bank to cash, we can select transfer. For check, we can select a check, and for expense, we can select an expense. In expense, we can select if there is a pay. For a particular chart of accounts, we can select from a drop down. In this case, it is a telephone expense. We can select a specific tax if it is associated with that. But let's say we don't have it for this transaction. You can write down description, that is payment made for the month of July 2014. You can simply click on add and it will get added. Oh, we have an error. In this case, we have an error with respect to tax, as in configuration we have given tax to be the compulsory one. So we'll select a tax and system will calculate the tax on it. You can click on add. Here pop-up will appear, transaction added. Now we can see that transaction is not in the list of new transactions. After the new transaction, we have another option, that is in QuickBooks. When we click on that, this transaction will be under that list as we have added it. In case we undo it, under the action tab we have undo option, and we can always click on that and QuickBooks will undo the accounting entry that we have done. Now let's say we want to match this particular transaction with the transactions that we have entered in our QuickBooks. For examples, we have, let's take up one deposit. Let's say we have a deposit and this is an income for us. So we have another option, find match, wherein for a specific date QuickBooks will find up a match. Let's say we want to find it match from 1st of March to 10th of August. QuickBooks has gave a search for matching a transaction, but it could not find out. So it was not possible to find the match. But in case it has found it, it will show a list of transactions and we can match it against the income or a pending invoice that we are yet to receive. So at the moment we are cancelling it. This is cash to bank or a bank to cash transfer. So we can go to add, we can go to transfer, we can select a particular bank account or cash account it is supposed to be transferred. Let's say write a description, cash deposit. You can click on add and transaction is added. You can see the pop-up transaction added on the top. So this way you can find the match and add a transaction. So just to summarize, what we have done is using QuickCreate, we have learned how to use an expense, how to use check, how to use bill, how to use pay bills, creating a purchase order, giving a supplier credit. Under banking, we have seen how to see downloaded transactions, how to add a particular transactions to our QuickBooks, how to match a particular transaction in QuickBooks and post it. You have completed this lesson. To be sure you have retained what you learned, complete the show you know exercises that follow. Feel free to return to this lesson to reinforce anything you forget. Thank you.